Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Zimbabwe, and welcome to Zimbabwe Daily. Today is day 7 of the national lockdown level 4. Like I always say, we have been and we continue to be under lockdown, but because of a surge in COVID-19 cases, the nation had to revert back to level 4 lockdown, which has seen a lot of people being denied entry and movement and asked to stay at home. So today on the program, we just want to talk about the developments that we have seen happening in November, December of 2020. We saw the arrest of the Harare mayor, who was then suspended, Councillor Jacob Mafume. In early January, we saw the arrest of Hope Ochingono. We also saw the arrest of MDC Alliance National Vice Chairperson, Honorable Job Sikala. And today we've had the arrest of the MDC Alliance National Spokesperson, Advocate Fadzai Mahere. So to speak on the subject of the lockdown and the clampdown on opposition, I've invited the MDC Alliance Deputy Spokesperson, Honorable Councillor Clifford Klatchwayo. Tinokuchingamidzai Vaklatchwayo. Welcome to Zim Daily.
Good afternoon, viewers and listeners.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Honorable. Mungangoti taurira kuti, what is the situation to date?
We've got a very serious crisis at the moment. We've got a father who is hunting how his children. We are at a crisis of an appearing parent, a parent at the children as enemies, who is considering on state is with its citizens. The state is at war with people.
Oh my word!
Because the government which is in place is
All right. I think we're having a little bit of a challenge hearing you, Leader Klatchwayo. Your mic is disconnected. Your mic is disconnected. If you can hear me, may you please unmute your microphone. All right. So I am failing to get through to Leader Klatchwayo. Unfortunately, we can't quite hear him. We can't quite hear him. So let me try again to get hold of him. So because of the national lockdown, we can't quite bring anyone into the studios. We have to do everything online. So right now we can't quite hear Honorable Clifford Klatchwayo because his microphone is on mute. So I'm just trying to get hold of him so that he can unmute his mic. Leader Klatchwayo, can you hear me? If you can hear me, please unmute your mic because we can't quite hear what you are saying. Right. So the statistics today is 11. Today is 11 January 2021, and the daily statistics from January 9 show a unsurprisingly high number of new cases recorded in the country. All provinces have reported new cases in the past 24 hours, 839
Yvonne, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Yvonne.
new.
Yvonne, I can't hear you. 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 I can't hear you
All right. Leader Klachwayo, can you hear
When I
me now?
can't hear you,
You still cannot hear me. You cannot hear me. I think our network is a bit of a problem. Clifford Klachwayo is the Deputy National Spokesperson of the MDC Alliance, and we've brought him on board so that we can have this conversation around the clampdown on opposition members. So we're going to ask him to try to log in again. So I was saying 839 new COVID-19 positive cases were reported on 8 January, and the data also shows 15 COVID-19 related deaths reported in the same time frame. Nationally, we have 7,577 active cases, which break down by province as follows. All right, so we're just going to wait for the leaders in the MDC Alliance to join us on the show. So yes. Awesome. So we'll keep on trying to have Leader Klachwayo join us back. But on the line, I have Honorable Daniel Molokele. He is the Wange Member of Parliament. Honorable Molokele, welcome.
Welcome, my dear. I don't even know whether I've placed my camera correctly, but
all right. So
yes,
you are
Yvonne,
live.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You are live on Zim Daily, and we are having a conversation. This is day 7 of the lockdown and level 4 that we've gone back into. And we just want to talk about the lockdown as an excuse to clamp down on opposition. And a lot of people have said that the MDC Alliance is not doing anything about the arrests that have been characterized in their party. We saw in December, the arrest of Councillor Jacob Mafume, was the mayor of Harare before he was suspended. We also saw the arrest of the national vice chairperson, Honorable Job Sikala, and today the arrest of the spokesperson of the MDC Alliance, Fadzai Mahere. Now we want to have this talk and find out what the party is saying and doing about that. We had Clifford Klachwayo, the Deputy National Spokesperson, but unfortunately, I think his network was giving him a problem. Hopefully, you'll be able to join soon. Thank you so much for joining me. I know I just want to have a general appreciation of what the opposition or what the alternative movement is saying about these arrests that are taking place.
Okay, thank you, Yvonne. I think we need to be very clear that it's a continuation of what started last year, where the paramilitary government that we have, very unpopular political government, and as MDC Alliance, we believe they were not popularly elected, but benefited from electoral massive rigging. So they are now showing their true colors, that they do not put the people of Zimbabwe first, but they put themselves first. And the continued abductions, arrests, arbitrary arrests, the prolonged detentions, violation of bail rights, and so on, are just a continuation of the increasingly repressive and desperate paramilitary government that is definitely unpopular, that is definitely struggling to resolve the social economic crisis of the country, that is failing to address the coronavirus epidemic situation decisively. So anyone who then tries to stand up, especially against corruption and so on, against human rights violations, they are immediately suppressed using all sorts of state machinery. So they are very intolerant and they are increasingly becoming worse to Robert Mugabe's old dictatorship.
Right. We saw Hopo Chingono, Honorable Job Sikala, and Advocate Fadzai Mahere being arrested on charges of communicating falsehood. Right. As a lawyer, what does this really mean? Are we likely to see elongated sentences on the three?
I think what is the emerging popular view is that the so-called law that is being used against them has already been declared unconstitutional previously. So it's clear that is a deliberate effort to use the legal process to harass political opponents. What I call in classic terms political persecution using criminal prosecutions. So whatever the kind of arrest that we have seen in the last few days, they are just a deliberate effort to undermine the civil liberties of the opponents of the government, of the paramilitary government. So they know the cases will not hold water, but they'll use the next few weeks to just continuously harass them. The message is that stop criticizing this government, keep quiet, accept what you see, hear no evil, see no evil. That is what the message is. And if you do any outspoken activity, if you speak out, we are going to deal with you harsh. So that is the message that is coming out.
And what is the message that you're giving to the citizens? Because there is a sensing and there's a feeling that the opposition in courts is not doing anything. Rather, they're just tweeting and writing statements. And at the end of the day, citizens are losing trust in you.
Yeah, I think we need to balance the two realities. The first one is that it's obviously going to play into the hands of the regime if the opposition tries to do some public activities right now using the lockdown restriction rules. They're going to arrest more of them, expose them further to coronavirus. But more importantly, the opposition and the real opposition, the MDC Alliance, was viciously attacked systematically last year through the corona judgment. It lost some of its key leaders. Some of his deployees in local government and parliament were recalled unfairly and unjustly so. Most of his leaders were continuously arrested and detained. Some of them were abducted. Financial funding for the party was deliberately withdrawn in favor of the other so-called MDCT and so on. So there was a systematic attack. The headquarters was taken away from the hands of the leadership. Administratively, it does not have a headquarters anymore. So there is a lot of attack that the MDC Alliance experienced. So in its particularly administratively weak state, it does not have the capacity to engage a sustainable mass action against the government as we start the year. And it's very important for the MDC Alliance not to be provoked unnecessarily into action when it is unprepared, because it will also worsen the situation with regards to the country's future. I think we need to be very upfront with the people of Zimbabwe that the opposition is not a political party, it is a political movement. It belongs to the people of Zimbabwe. Each citizen of Zimbabwe is personally responsible and accountable for the future of this country. Enough is enough. We do not want people to continue to say we are waiting for President Advocate Nelson Chamisa, we are waiting for the so-called political leaders in the opposition party. We want the people of Zimbabwe to stand up, and we want the people of Zimbabwe to assert themselves in whatever possible way, in whatever possible avenue, from social media and so on. Because if there is going to be any real change in Zimbabwe, it will come from the people of Zimbabwe and not from a political party. Because as you can now see, ZANU-PF is holding this whole country ransom. We mortgaged our democratic hopes and future on a political party and it let us down. So people of Zimbabwe must not trust any political party with the future of the country. We must take citizenship responsibility going forward.
Right. When you say that the citizens must take the leadership in this, are you not using it as as a matter of convenience to say the citizens should do something, and when the citizens do something, then maybe you rope on board and say we are the leaders, we are those that are leading. What what are you doing really? Because everything is getting worse. Victor Mdudu Sibanda says, what are you opposing? Because everything is getting from bad to worse every.
I was a young student leader in 1995 at the University of Zimbabwe. In my first year at law school, there was no political party to talk about in the country at that time. I did not blame any political party. I stood up as a law student. I got elected as the Secretary General of the Students' Union. I rose through the ranks and I found myself in the streets and in the civil society fighting for the new country. I was one of the young Zimbabweans who was at the forefront in 1997 when the National Constitutional Assembly was set up to fight for a new constitutional dispensation in the country. I was also involved in reviving the Zimbabwe National Students' Union. And by the time 1999 came, the Zimbabwe National Students' Union and the National Constitutional Assembly played a key role in supporting the Zimbabwe Congress of Trade Unions in setting up the movement for democratic change. What we learned from those years ago is that we start with the citizenship mobilization. And then as the citizenship mobilization gains momentum, the opposition political movement grows from strength to strength. So right now, a lot of Zimbabweans are waiting for the political parties. It's a wrong approach. We need mass resistance from civil society, from social movements, from labor movement, from youth, from women, from every concerned citizens, from people in the streets, from people in the villages. And then as we do that, a movement develops. And that's how the MDC was formed in 1999. It was a product of a process of many years of investment. And the student movement of this country, I was one of the leaders at that time. We played our part, culminating in the setting up of the MDC. So I am strongly opposed to Zimbabweans who are still blaming the opposition parties, which are clearly attacked and are easily able to be attacked by the paramilitary government. We need people-to-people mobilization right now. That's what is needed in Zimbabwe. No political party has the capacity to pull down this paramilitary government. We need mass-to-mass mobilization. We need to stop blaming the MDC alliance, which is under vicious attack as we speak right now. We need to blame Advocate Nelson Chamisa. We need to stop blaming Advocate Nelson Chamisa. He is just a concerned citizen of Zimbabwe. The future of this country belongs to all of us. We must stand up and be fighted. Everyone must be arrested. Everyone must be detained. Why should some specific people be detained? All of us need to fight for a new Zimbabwe.
Right. All of us need to fight for a new Zimbabwe, you say, and yet most of us are tweeting from the comfort of our home. Most of us are simply, writing statements from the comfort of our homes. Now, Advocate Fadzai Mahere has been taken inside. Honorable Job Sikala has been taken inside. Now what? Honorable Klachkaya, welcome back. Thank you so much for rejoining the conversation. So I have, your colleague, Honorable Daniel Molokele, joining also to speak about the clampdown on the opposition and how the lockdown has been used as that excuse and as that cover to make sure that critics of government do not stand. Honorable Klachkwayo, you were saying something when the network cut us off, and that was in relation to the arrest of the two leaders in the movement. Can you hear me, Leader Klachkwayo?
I doubt if you managed to hear
I can't you. I think there's a serious network problem here because.
Awesome.
Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, we can hear you. We are wondering if you can hear us.
Can you can.
All right. I think he's not able to hear us, but all the same, we'll continue with this conversation, Honorable Molokele. Now, okay, Roy Antonio says, like Corona Yatura Mazanu PFS. I mean, is that then the solution? What should the people do? Because we are now wishing each other, evil. We're now praying that Corona should do A, B, C, D on our behalf. Have we failed our politics in our country?
Yvonne, it's just expressions of frustration and they're understandable. But I'm saying this is not time to agonize. This is time to mobilize. And it's very important for us as Zimbabweans to say that if you look at the country, even from the liberation movement, people had to leave the country, some as teenagers, to go to exile, some had to go to train as guerrillas, to be Zipra and Zanla, so that we could have a new Zimbabwe. So this is the time, especially for the young people of Zimbabwe, to stand up and be counted. You cannot blame the older generation. They know that their time here on earth is limited. The future of the country belongs to the young people. And when I was 21 years old, I was already actively involved in the national leadership of this country, busy building up Zinasu in 1996. So what I want you to understand is that the youth of this country, especially the urban youth, have a national responsibility to lead the mass revolt against this paramilitary government. In South Africa, we know that in 1976, the students at primary schools and secondary schools in Soweto, in Orlando, they rose up and said, enough is enough. And it was the students who changed the direction of the political history of South Africa. So when we look at Zimbabwe today, we need to challenge, especially the young people of the country, to say that don't blame the elders, don't blame those who have gone before you. Start taking charge of your future. Start to organize from the streets. Start to organize from the communities. And before you know it, there's going to be real change in this country. Right. The real change will not come from elections. I think elections are just an icing on the cake. The real change will come from mass mobilization. And mass mobilization does not come through political parties. It comes through political movements. Movements that come from the people on the ground. That is where we are in Zimbabwe. In 2021, we do not want to put our trust.
You're saying that the youth have a national responsibility to mobilize. I think definitely the time zones that you've spoken about, 1976 and now, these are different seasons. How, when they are mobilizing, what are they mobilizing for, to achieve what? Because I think we've seen young ladies like Joanna Mamombe, Cecilia Chimbiri, Netsai Marova being abducted or allegedly being abducted, and now they're facing their days in court. Now, which more young people should be sacrificed, or should we sacrifice, in order for the older generation to understand the call for change, really, as the nation is calling for?
I personally have not seen the young people of this country mobilize themselves politically since the 1990s. There's been instances across the last 20 years where the youth and maybe students have tried to do so. But when you look at our generation, the student movement of the 90s, 95, 96, 97, 98, where I was a leader at the University of Zimbabwe and Zinasu, with the late Lemo Jongwe, with the Honorable Job Sikala, Secure, Charlton Wend, and all those kind of student leaders at that time, eventually joined later by Nelson Chamisa. We as youth and students at that time, we actually organized demonstrations. We actually went out into town and slept outside Parliament and demanded that Mugabe must step down. The University of Zimbabwe was closed for months without end. We were abducted. I was personally abducted physically. We mobilized mass demonstrations across the country as students, as youth. So obviously, the youth today have got precedents. They've got Arab Springs. They've got in North Africa. They've got other precedents in Uganda and so on, where they can look up to use more innovative ways of protest, using social media and so on. But the bottom line is the challenge is upon each and every generation. As the great Nelson Mandela said, each and every generation has got its own battles. You cannot expect the generation of Gabe and Joshua Nkomo to play this part now. Their time has come and gone. The generation of Morgan Tsvangirai, their time has come and gone. So now there is need for a new generation of leaders to emerge in this country, to help the country move forward. If you remember, a few weeks ago, we remember the death of Josiah Tongogara. Can you double check how old he was when he passed on in 1979? You realize even Emerson Mnangagwa, check how old he was in 1980. So you realize that the generational issue is very important at this moment in time. We need a paradigm shift. A lot of young people in the country today are going to respond to social issues like entertainment, but they're not going to respond to issues of national agenda setting, national development, human rights, democratic space. So we need a paradigm shift in their mindset. This is not time to dance. This is not time to look for disco music, for newer crossovers in Mbari. This is time to fight for a new Zimbabwe, for a new and better Zimbabwe. And young people of this country, students and youth, is their responsibility to develop a new movement for this country, to move this paramilitary government out of power, because it clearly is unpopular and hurts the people of Zimbabwe and is selfish and very corrupt. It's time to remove this dictatorship led by Mnangagwa.
Well, really strong words there coming from Honorable Daniel Molokele. We are talking about the clampdown on the opposition movement, and we have seen just this question, because a lot of people have been asking, and their concern is like, do we really need to look to you for leadership as the MDC Alliance, or it's daughters Yazbonela, one man for himself and God for us all. We love our nation, but how many are prepared to people just need leadership, and they're saying the opposition is no longer giving that leadership. Are you still there, MDC Alliance?
Once again, Yvonne, that is a totally unacceptable excuse. It's unacceptable. There was no MDC Alliance in 1998. There was no MDC Alliance in 1998 when the University of Zimbabwe was closed for months while I was the president there. We actually formed the MDC Alliance as young people of Zimbabwe, the late Len Mojongo and others. So it's unfair for people to continually point fingers at political parties that are clearly weakened, that are clearly emasculated. Just last week, the Political Parties Finances Act was used to allocate millions of RTGS to MDCT. Everyone in Zimbabwe saw that. The MDC Alliance does not have a physical office right now. Everyone in Zimbabwe knows that. So stop hiding behind the finger. In 1998, there was no physical political party in the country called MDC. So why was there eventually a formation of a party that did well in the 2000 elections? Is because civil society, youth, women, labor, students mobilized themselves. The political party is a product of a political movement. So this is the message that we need to understand. We do not start with political parties, we start with political movement. Political parties are administration of political movement. So you start with the different stakeholders, concerned Zimbabweans. You know what Evans Mawarire did a few years ago is another example of what I'm talking about. This flag movement, what happened that year? Just one single Zimbabwean stood up and mobilized the country. We know that there was a Save Zimbabwe campaign in 2008 that also changed the constitutional dispensation of this country. So there are examples, historically speaking, that you cannot continue to blame single political parties, weakened political parties like the MDC Alliance, whose leadership have been recalled. Everyone knows that they've got leaders who have been recalled from parliament, from mayoral, whatever. We have got personal issues. Some are being detained, some are being arrested. They don't have income, fixed income for their families and their children. And now you still want to continue to point finger at someone who has been viciously attacked by the regime. It's time to stand up.
Is that
because
not
the MDC Alliance has clearly said it is more than willing to be part of a national movement. It has not insisted that it is the only thing. I have got evidence that the MDC Alliance has issued public statements last year, clearly saying that now is the time for a broad-based alliance to move the country forward. That is the position of the MDC Alliance. We want a broad-based movement to move the country forward. We do not want one political party to claim the future of this country.
To ask
we
this
want
question.
The people of Zimbabwe to claim the future of this country.
All right, Leader Molokele, thank you so much for that impassioned plea and call to the rest of the nation. But is that not where we're getting a major challenge, where each time we go for an election, we are seeing the emergence of new and numerous political movements, or rather political parties that split the vote at the end of the day? So would you blame the people who would rather wait on the movements that they know of, for example, the MDC, in whatever format it is taking? So people are waiting upon the MDC for leadership. Would you blame them for waiting? Or is it a time when the movement itself has to show the capacity that it has garnered over the last 20 years? Yes, granted, there's almost all these issues that you raise, the assault that you're continually getting from the state. But is this not the time for you also to show leadership to a country, to mobilize the masses so that you can achieve the call that you are calling for?
Yeah, but I think we're repeating ourselves, Yvonne. The MDC Alliance is going to play its part in helping the country move forward. It has clearly articulated its position in public that it is in favor of a broad-based mass political movement against the paramilitary regime. Political parties come and go. 40 years ago in this country, there was no party called the MDC Alliance. There was ZANU-PF and PF-ZAP. And there was 20 years ago, the MDCA was formed as a result after 10 years without any other major political party in the country. So in each era and dispensation, a new political movement emerges to respond to the demands of that generation. We cannot continue to look for PF-ZAPU to resolve the problem for Zimbabwe today. It played its part. It came and went. So what I'm saying is time has come for a new broad-based mass movement to take the country forward. Stop blaming the MDC Alliance because it's already weak. Anyone can see that it's weak. Let's build a new institution, a public mass movement that is going to move the country forward. In fact, people should not worry about new political parties because ZANU-PF is definitely going to form new political parties every election. It's going to happen. It's natural. It's politics. You have to split the vote of the opposition to remain in power. So you can't use that as an excuse. It's natural for the ruling party to fund smaller parties. If you saw what happened with Pollard, with almost 20 leaders of the opposition, so-called leaders. But I, as a member of parliament, got more votes than the majority of those so-called leaders of the opposition. So I think it's only one or two of them who got more votes than me. Otherwise, the rest, my own vote as a member of parliament, in a single constituency out of 220, I still got more votes than the so-called political leaders that were under Pollard. So ZANU-PF or any other ruling party is justified to sponsor opposition elements to sort of split the vote. It's a divide and rule strategy, and it's fair. So stop blaming the formation of new parties. We don't need to form new parties now. We need to form a mass movement. The MDC was only launched as a political party in 2000. Everyone knows that. It started as a movement.
Right. Moloko, Leo.
So let's build a movement, especially led by the young people of this country, so that the regime stops victimizing individuals. Because that's what it is going to continue to do this year. It's going to arrest only a few people to warn others from standing up. They are just arresting a few people.
All right. Thank you so much. And just as we wrap this up, Honorable Molokele, I think the major issue that we want to talk about and the message that we want to push is that COVID-19 is here and it is affecting us. And I think as a political formation, you've really borne much of the brunt because we see MDC Alliance members getting arrested. Moloko Leo Modiba says, true, it's like only MDC Alliance members are committing crime. It's actually embarrassing. Thank you so much for getting through. We have Boniface Muchemwa, and he says, panzvimbo yekuti nyika tibatsirane tombosiya zvematongerwo enyika paside tidzidzisane nezvecorona iyi ZANU-PF neMDC muri kungodzingirirana zvino munovhoterwa nani vanovhota vacho tichifa. kuraiwa mani. Now, we want to come to this issue of COVID-19 because it's real and there's a new strain that is coming through. We yet to get a confirmation that in Zimbabwe we have a new strain, but we are told that we have a second wave, which has caused the nation to go into national lockdown level 4. Now, what message would you give to the people of Zimbabwe in light of this COVID-19 as we wrap up our conversation?
I think I have the advantage of a comparative lens between Zimbabwe and South Africa. And I'm able to see that there is totally a different approach in terms of responding to the epidemic. I think in South Africa, there is less public sort of rhetoric. There is more of public consultation. There is more of reliance on science and medical research. Unlike in Zimbabwe, where we see more of a strong-handed political approach with a lot of military discipline, sort of worrying more about law enforcement, more than responding direct to the epidemic from a scientific and medical point of view. We need to increase the influence of medical or scientific professionals in determining the response. So far, our response has been more on law enforcement, on prevention, but the actual response is actually when someone is now affected by corona, what happens? What are the medical facilities? What are the healthcare facilities like for those who are now infected and affected by corona? And Zimbabwe right now has a zero strategy on that. We are not even having a social welfare strategy, which South Africa has, to say, since we have locked down the country, especially those in the informal sector, how are we going to support them financially to survive through the period so that there is compliance to the lockdown restrictions. So our strategy in Zimbabwe needs to improve. We need more a stakeholder approach, an all-inclusive approach. And the media strategy around communicating around corona is very weak at the moment. It's so difficult to find official information or from political leadership of the country compared to South Africa. It's shocking how different it is. I'm not saying the South African government is perfect, but I'm saying if you compare the two countries, you will see that if Zimbabwe could do at least half of what South Africa has done, especially around access to healthcare services, around to medicines, and so on. That's where the big story is. And that's where Zimbabwe last year got off lightly. But this year it will be caught pens down, because last year we ended up not going that deep in terms of the medical situation and healthcare services. Our healthcare services are not ready for the corona, and it's very disappointing to say the least. That's why most of our resources should be allocated financially. We should increase investment on sanitizers, on masks, on PPE, on protecting the healthcare workers at the front line, on increasing equipment in hospitals and clinics, in developing isolation centers that are well equipped. Nothing really is happening on that front. And we are caught flat-footed once again. Even though last year we were given a stay of execution, we still do not seem to be ready as a country, medically speaking, healthcare-wise speaking.
Are you still MP for Hwange?
Yes, I'm the member of parliament for Hwange Central constituency.
Right. I just want you to give us a brief understanding of the measures that you have taken as the member of parliament in making sure that your constituency is informed about COVID-19 and some of the actions that as a community you have taken in order to mitigate the spread and continue effects of COVID-19.
You know what? It's very disappointing that the Parliament of Zimbabwe has chosen to shut down in the wake of the lockdown. Last year, we learned lessons that the members of Parliament have a responsible role in community awareness campaigns, in raising awareness among local constituencies. So as MPs, we actually advocated for allocations of funding to ensure that we do public awareness where the vulnerable members of our communities got support for maybe mask support and so on, and sanitizers. So this year we've gone back to where we started last year. Parliament has actually closed down So MPs right now are not capacitated to do anything. Last year, we had some of our members of parliament doing their own personal initiatives. It is at the start of the year. Financially, a lot of us are stranded because we do not have funding from the state or from government. We have to do it personally. So Parliament of Zimbabwe is actually closed. It's not even playing its role to monitor the executive arm of the state. Our committee systems has been put on hold. So I am totally disappointed that Parliament has chosen to shut down. We are supposed to use Zoom. We're supposed to use other means of effectively monitoring the executive to debate the response of the executive. So far, that is not happening. So as a member of parliament, I feel that it is the Parliament of Zimbabwe that has let the people of Zimbabwe down. Because right now they should be giving grants, because MPs do not have fiscal offices. They requested for funding for offices, even for rent. They were never given. To employ at least 1 or 2 staff, they were never given. I have my own staff that I pay from my own personal account, and I do not have a fixed form of income, and I'm unemployed. So I'm like a missionary, I'm like a volunteer to be a member of parliament. So to expect a lot from a member of parliament is just ridiculous. We need money to be allocated, even from the budget, to be reallocated towards the COVID-19 response. And MPs should be at the forefront in helping mobilize the communities to stand up to Corona. This is not happening, and this is what should be happening.
Right, we see the shortfalls of parliament, obviously, but then as an individual, what have you done? We understand.
Yes, we've increased awareness with the social media platforms that we are using. So we're increasing awareness for people in terms of complying with the restrictions of Corona. But we can't go far beyond that. We can't even come up with social welfare responses. We simply do not have the financial capacity. There are few companies in Wange that are already struggling. Last year, we tried to approach them for social grants, for support. They all came with the same answer, that they were already struggling and they couldn't help. And it's January 2021. There is nothing much you can do. The best you can do is to ask the Parliament of Zimbabwe to reconfigure the budget allocations, because the lockdown makes sure that some of the things that we're supposed to do are no longer able to do. That money should be reallocated. It should be reassigned to the COVID-19 response. It's simple.
Right. Do you have an
isolated budget here? How do you have a normal budget here, Yvonne, with this lockdown setup? Because most of the budget allocation are now irrelevant. So they should be, the parliament should realign the budget towards the COVID-19 response.
Right. I just wanted to know if you have an isolation center that is working in Wange at the moment.
In my constituency, there is a task force, a district task force that I eventually pushed myself to be added to, amid much resistance. It's mostly civil servants who are there. We have an old hospital that was abandoned that we started to refurbish. So because of the new outbreak that has happened, the work has started again. But it's a very small facility. In the event that there is a real outbreak in the constituency, it will be totally overwhelmed. It's an isolation facility a few miles outside the city center. But that's the legal that we have got. We don't have a government hospital in our constituency. So it's very difficult.
I see. All right. Have you recorded any cases in Wange? I see that Matabeleland North and South has a collective about 700 cases there. Have you recorded any in your constituency?
Yes, we have recorded a few. So far, we're starting like last year. Wange was one of the towns that was not really affected by the epidemic. But we cannot bank on the luck that we had last year. So we are definitely unprepared for this second wave. And what is simply needed, Yvonne, is a realignment of national resources towards Corona, because you can't have a normal budget here and assume that all the allocations that were done will work, because they are restricted by the lockdown. So why don't you reallocate the budget towards the COVID-19 response?
the finance minister announced a budget in 2020. Did you, as parliamentarians, push him to have a specific COVID-19 budget?
Yes, of course. Yes, that's why the Ministry of Health got an increased budget. But what if you take a second look at the budget that was adopted in December? It did not assume that we would start here with a lockdown. So things have changed dramatically. That's why it's important for Parliament not to close down, for Parliament to open even using Zoom, and then re-debate the budget and say, let's realign the budget in line with the COVID-19 response. Because a lockdown means we are no longer on a normal economic situation. We are now restricted. So the activities that were allocated for different ministries will not happen anywhere because of the lockdown. So realign the budget. Parliament should be opened, even using Zoom, to realign the budget so that it is mostly health-oriented and it responds directly to the people of Zimbabwe.
Right. Thank you so much, Honorable Molokele, for joining me this afternoon to have this conversation.
You're welcome, my dear.
All right. So that was Honorable Daniel Molokele from Hwange Central, just giving us feedback in terms of how far their own constituency is prepared for this second wave, and also giving us an assessment of the arrests that are currently taking place. Boniface Muchemwa, you says, pamaita ma-campaigns maishandise ikuendako. Okay, that's a question. I'm sure it was responded to. Tafadzwa Ngoshi say, if you're engaging in criminal activities, don't hide behind the party saying they arrest me because I belong to a certain party. You have to be dealt with without affiliate with any party. That is so true. We want our rule of law to function. But what the opposition or the alternative movement has been saying is that the law has to be used without fear or favor. And what we are seeing at the moment is what Honorable Daniel Molokele termed political persecution. We will continue to have more of these conversations because at the end of the day, we want to conscientize the nation on what is happening and to keep you informed. So I was saying a breakdown of active cases by province. Bulawayo has 628 COVID-19 cases. Harare has 3,455 cases. Manicaland 718. Mashonaland Central 411 cases. Mashonaland East 597, Mashonaland West 298 cases, Midlands 332 cases, Mashingo 383, Matebeleland North 228, and Matebeleland South 527 cases. We must remember to always wear our mask, covering our nose and mouth, leaving no spaces. I've seen a lot of people wearing their masks like this. This is not allowed. You can't wear your mask like this. This is not it. You can only wear it like this. And you'd have to make sure that you're fully covering your nose and your mouth. We need to do this, Zimbabwe, because at the end of the day, we want to keep all of us safe. We also reminded that we need to make sure that we wash our hands thoroughly with soap and running water. I know a lot of you will ask me, what about running water? We don't have, but we can pour it out of the buckets rather than washing into the bucket. Avoid unnecessary interactions with people not from your household, and keep physical distance between you and others always. Let us remember, and if you experience any symptom, please isolate immediately. And if you want to go for a COVID-19 test, I know that in Chitungwiza Zengeza 3 clinic is offering free COVID-19 tests, but when you go to other laboratories like Lancet, they're charging $60. That is for if you want to do social movements like travel out of the country for business or whatever, you have to get tested because at the borders, they're asking for the COVID-19 test. And if you're if you are symptomatic, you feel like you have, go to your designated COVID-19 centers and get yourself tested and also treated. We can only do so much. Ngatina tiri kudzimba, let us use those herbs, those lemons, ginger, garlic, and all that. We continue to share with each other. Just don't do something that will kill you, like soda and something that I've seen circulating, but try to go the natural route in order for us to keep safe. Zimbabwe, this is Zimbabwe Daily. And thank you so much for joining me as we had a conversation around the lockdown. And thank you, Isaac Chavanga. You say Dr. Moronda, and they cost $60. Let us share as much information as possible to each other wherever you are coming in from. Let's share. If you know of a if you know of a center that is offering free COVID-19 tests, advise, you can just send us a WhatsApp message on 0774 107 682. That's my number, and we can keep each other informed. Chitungwiza Kwanzi Zengeza 3 Clinic is offering free COVID-19 tests. So if you feel or if you suspect that you've been in contact with somebody who has been diagnosed with COVID-19, you need to go and also get tested, because prevention is always better than cure, and staying safe is always better than being hospitalized. Let us mask up Zimbabwe and keep the nation on its feet. Tomorrow, we want to have a conversation with the informal sector. Muri say, we know that a lot of you are in the informal trade, you do your vending, and now that the country is on level 4 lockdown, we want to know what that essentially means. Thank you so much for joining me on this conversation. Have yourselves a wonderful day and keep safe, Zimbabwe. Let us mask out.